Hello everyone, this is Brian, and welcome back to Twilight Struggle Play the Experts, the game where I play the experts, and you tell me how I could have saved a lot of victory points. Now, last time we took Middle East scoring right in the headline, but we got a really good coup into Iran. We looked for a way to dominate Asia, and after a few little maneuvers at DEFCON 4, we unfortunately appeared to run out of gas, and it seemed we had to score the Asian card off for merely 2 points. We then spent the rest of our turn spreading into the Middle East, trying to get that continent to go better next time. However, we then were faced with a choice between holding on to Thailand and therefore a lot of Asia and letting him have a desperate coup into Iran, and unfortunately he rolled a 6 on the coup. That put him on into Asia, and so we had to go ahead and decolonize, spend the rest of our turn taking over Africa, bringing us to turn 3, where we will try to get this game back on the rails. However, let us first go back in time. That's right, to a place where several of you have pointed out to me that I may have made an error, or at least there was an opportunity that should be discussed, that deserves careful discussion. Because in Action Round 4, this is the action round where I concluded that there just wasn't likely to be a way to dominate Asia, because I can't play the 5-year plan card, really. The Romanian abdication isn't going to do enough to be important. Decolonization looked like it was too dangerous to do at this point. And then the US-Japan card, although we could take Pakistan really firmly with it, we would give him Japan for free, which would then just tie us up. And it didn't look to me like there was a way to make progress. But it turns out several of you saw something that I missed. And so we are going to look into that opportunity. And that opportunity was to, in fact, play decolonization, to do it in a highly non-standard way. And that is one of the reasons I missed it. That would be to decolonize into Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Indonesia all at once. And that would leave us one more little dinkly point that we could, if we wished, put into somewhere like Africa, maybe South Africa, somewhere just to kind of get a little nod toward doing something in Africa. But what it would do is bring us to 6 battlegrounds, our country count to 6 in Asia, to his 3. And that would mean that although he could take a coup if he wanted to, there wouldn't be a place where he could flip the domination. If he took a coup, even if he took a successful or mostly successful coup in somewhere crazy like North Korea, he still doesn't have any battleground, so even one battleground would be enough. And see, he could flip our 6, currently it would be a 6-3 country count. He could take ours to 5, but his would only come up to 4. And so if we were willing to use 3 of our decolonizing countries to do that, then we would have that opportunity. I mean, there's also weirder thing. We could, use it to break his control in those countries if we somehow thought that made more sense, so that he couldn't coup us in Indonesia or whatever. But the point being, there was a way to end up scoring Asia for, I think it would have been 6 points instead of 2 points. So that is a 4 victory point difference that we could have achieved. Now, the cost of that would have been not having decolonization around for at least the near-term future of getting all a hold of Africa, and so there could be consequences in getting into Africa later. I don't think we yet suspected at this point that he was holding de-Stalinization, and he may not have even been holding it at this point. I can't remember when he played that funny UN. That might have been later in this turn. But in any event, it might have had consequences, but you know my theory lately has been I would do almost anything for 4 points in a game of Twilight Struggle. And so, based on my own strategy, if I had seen that, I would pretty much have almost certainly done that, because 4 victory points is a lot of victory points, and my philosophy is normally to, let the future take care of itself. It won't always take care of itself, but 4 victory points right now, 4 extra victory points, could have just, bam, taken 6 victory points, and there would be nothing he could have done about it, except even make it worse by trying to wriggle too much, perhaps. So that is my conclusion. My conclusion is that you guys were right, and congratulations for spotting something deep and above and beyond the homework. That would have been the move. However, I didn't make that move, so let us return to turn 3, the beginning of turn 3. And the actual homework assignment, which was to come up with a good headline here and all of that. Now, I neglected to leave you with the important turn 3, beginning of the turn, knowledge of what his other cards are by counting the cards that did and did not get played. And I hope some of you went and figured them out, or at least figured out the high points. The high points, he's got de-Stalinization, and he's got defectors. Those are probably the 2 most notable cards that we definitely know he has. He also has the Warsaw Pact, Formosan Resolution, the Independent Reds, and I believe he holds the De Gaulle card. So that's what he's got. Meanwhile, he knows some of these cards that we have. He knows we've got 5-year plan. He knows we've got CIA. He knows we've got Blockade, Fidel, Korean War, and he knows we've got European scoring, and I doubt he's all that happy about it. Because, as those of you who follow me know, one of my absolute favorite things to do is get a really bad scoring card. Europe is a very bad scoring card because he dominates it. And so we will hopefully play out our hand until the only card left we have in it, the only 2 cards left we have in it are 5-year plan and European scoring. And so on our very last round, we'll play 5-year plan. It will go off because it's his event. We'll get the 3 ops, but the European scoring card, since it's the only other card in our hand, will go to the discard pile counting 0. And no, you don't lose the game for held scoring cards because you're not holding a scoring card. It went to the discard pile. The one thing that we must absolutely avoid doing is impulsively playing the China card this turn, because if we play the China card, then we will ruin our hand size, and we would have too many cards to be able to play 5-year plan and guarantee that the Europe card would be the one discarded, and therefore we could indeed, if we actually even did that, end up losing the game. That's some basics. So that's just a basic thing. If you're holding the China card and you're planning to 5-year plan off some horrible scoring card, you will not want to play the China card this turn. Now, there is another little puzzle conundrum or possible problem we have to deal with, is we are holding the CIA card. The CIA card is bad for us as the Soviets because when we play it, it gives him operations during our phase. In other words, when we're responsible for the DEFCON. And so if he is able to use that one operations point to take a coup in a battleground, lowering the DEFCON to DEFCON 1, then we, not him, are responsible, and so we, not him, lose the game, and so he, not we, would win the game, and we, not he, would be sad. So we don't want to do that. And see how this interacts with the little 5-year plan problem. We have to get the CIA card played this turn so that it's out of the way if we're going to therefore end up with 5-year plan being able to discard the European scoring card. So the only times we can play the CIA card when it's not DEFCON 3 are likely to be, well, we could try to headline it, but we sure wouldn't want to accidentally eat a duck and cover. It's unlikely he's got duck and cover because we used it last turn and it went to this card pile, but it did reshuffle. He's got, at least 2 reshuffle cards in his hand. And so if he headlined that and we headlined it, then, well, we'd end up losing because he would take a coup and then he would take another coup during our responsibility. So that would be bad. It's very unlikely, but also CIA headline isn't really necessary if we have another interesting headline. Better to, if we're going to woof it out, the usual time to woof a CIA out is on action round 1, assuming he hasn't already taken the DEFCON down to 2 somehow during his headline phase. So that is probably those are the 2 key elements so far in our developing plan. Is 1, 5-year plan to get rid of Europe at the end. 2, CIA probably on action round 1 to get it out. Now we're going to have to tolerate a coup from him somewhere in an African country. So I will probably end up using the 1 point for ops to go into Zaire so he can't knock us out of all of Southern Africa with an easy little coup there. And let's see what else we've got. We've got Fidel, so we can get into Cuba and therefore Central America. And we will, on turn 3, that's probably good to do. We'll probably try to do that relatively late in the turn. We've got the Korean War, which may actually turn out to be, even though you can see we already control South Korea, it's a way that we can get military ops, because of course if we don't get any military ops, then and he, assuming he does get at least 1 military op with a coup with the CIA, then our only ways to get a coup would be either playing the Korean War, or I guess we could take a little coup in Costa Rica since he's gone into a non-battleground that would be still couable, but we may want to do that one way or the other. Obviously taking the coup doesn't have the chance to also roll a 5 or a 6 and get even extra victory points. So that may be the way that we both, the Korean War may be a way that we go ahead and get some military ops, saving us from losing any points there, maybe even making us gain 1 point, assuming he's going to get 1 military op from the CIA. And then maybe we'll grow high and get some points in from the Korean War itself. Romanian abdication is going to continue to be not a great event until Independent Reds is gone as an event. I normally try to avoid firing Romanian abdication as an event as the Soviets, because it just gives him a way he can get in there and get some points right next to my superpower, and you know how I hate it when he's touching my superpower. Sometimes I'll fire Romanian abdication if I know I'm going to have a de-Stalinization, so that it gives me, it's like fuel for a de-Stalinization, and I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll pick up all the points and put them somewhere else. But in this case, we know he's got de-Stalinization, so we're not going to get it. So we probably won't do that. Now, Marshall Plan has unfortunately come around yet again. You know, he didn't even take the Marshall Plan. He just played 4 ops. And so now he's managed to have it come right back in our hand. And, you know, I could space it, but I'm not sure, you know, being already a little behind on the space race and probably needing ops, being a little bit behind in board position, you know, just being a little behind in everything. I feel and knowing that Europe is going to go ahead and score now in turn 3, that means, you know, we've had the reshuffle. The reshuffle is not coming again until turn 7. So we're going to escape from giving them any European points until at least after turn 7. And given that I just don't see a lot of room for counterplay in Europe. He already controls the de Gaulle card. Most of the good attack Europe cards have already gone away. He's already gone to 5 in France. So I think we're just going to use Marshall Plan for ops when it suits us. And go ahead and write off Europe as, well, at least he's not getting the points until at least turn 7, after which he will definitely be able to get the points. It is pretty darn certain. So that is the overall plan. And so then the question is, what to headline? And that is an interesting question. Boy, oh boy. Because he's got defectors, and that's on turn 3. He's got defectors, and we know he has defectors. Now, normally, when you're just starting out playing, that's enough, and you know he's got defectors, and you're glad. But of course, then there's the fact that he knows that we know that he has defectors, and he knows that we know that he knows that we know, and so on and so forth, that he has defectors. So, on the one hand, he's got defectors, and he knows we've got Europe, so, he probably doesn't want to risk accidentally defectoring the Europe card, so he probably won't defector us. But on the other hand, he also knows we've got 5-year plan, and he knows that, we can get rid of Europe anyway, basically. So assuming that he doesn't have, if he has duck and cover, then that is a no-brainer headline here, because it not only gives him points, but he knows it gives us an absolutely horrible problem with CIA, and we'd have to, either play the China card, spaced 5-year plan, whatever. It would be horrible, but he probably doesn't have that card. And so, of the cards we know he has, it's actually not bad at all, necessarily bad to do that. Again, he could catch the CIA, but in a way that puts the CIA back fairly. I don't know. The problem is, I don't necessarily want to headline a good card, because I know he's gonna maybe wipe it out. So, it would be pretty sad to me if Fidel got wiped out. So I don't know. As much as I just talked about Remaining Abdication not being a great card, in some ways that makes it a headline. It's a low-risk headline. It doesn't gain or lose a lot. It's not very important. We know he's got independent reds, but would he go ahead and do it? I think we got rid of Truman Doctrine, so maybe he wouldn't be touching my superpower very hard, at least at first, and he's still got Warsaw Pact to deal with. I don't know. So I'm actually coming around to my thinking to just going ahead and headlining Remaining Abdication. So if he does defector it, then at least, he didn't defector a good card. But I'm not brave enough. It's certainly probably less than 50-50 that he plays defector. So I'm not going to just cram out Europe or CIA and take a big risk there. Obviously I would love it if he defectored Europe and then I could just hold on to 5-year plan or something like that. But it seems a little more risky than taking the slightly more sure thing. So here we go. Remaining Abdication. Oh, and how wonderful is that? Ha not. He's got the Middle East scoring card again. And so he's headlined it again, while he still dominates it again. And that is just extra sad and bad. So we're going to get our stupid Romanian guys, and then he's going to get 4 more points for Middle East, because although we now have a presence, and even in a battleground, he has expanded to more things, and so our hopes of having time to, take care of the usual Soviet advantage in the Middle East and grow that to a bigger, more wonderful thing, have come a cropper. And of course that was a reshuffle card from him. We didn't know he had it, but it was clearly a no-brainer headline for him. There was absolutely nothing that we could have done, nothing we could have headlined that would have made life any better whatsoever. So that is how things just stand, and that is that. All right, so we need to do something, but now at least after that little horror show, our core plan can get underway, which is, it is still correct for us to get rid of the CIA. Now, usually when I do CIA, I prefer to do a resolve event first so that he can't do a little 2-move in a row thing, because there's great little American moves, like where he could put the first influence into Colombia and then go straight on into Venezuela or something like that if he didn't want to take a coup. But unfortunately, I don't want to get wiped all the way out of Southern Africa if he were able to take a coup in Angola. So I need to go ahead and place influence first. And so he can coup one or the other, but he can't coup both. And therefore, he probably won't even coup that. And he's going to see our entire hand, so he's going to know the awful truth. Keep in mind that this is one of the least harmful times for him to see that, because the only thing, literally the only thing he just learned from that, other than that we have the CIA, well, he knew we had the CIA card, he did just learn that we have the Marshall Plan. So he knows that's coming. He can probably guess we're probably going to play it. Maybe he thinks we'll space it. But anyway, he knows it. So then the more harmful part is the part where he gets to do something with it. And interestingly, he has chosen not to take a coup. So he is just propped up. Oh, of course. He didn't take the coup with the CIA, Brian, idiot, because he's going to take a coup with the next card. So he's just playing the 1 point into South Africa. And yeah, so here comes Olympic Games. I think that must have been a reshuffle card for him also, his other reshuffle card. So I think we're done with surprises. And he's going to coup, and he is going to coup Angola. Oh, and look, he's even going to actually do us a little favor by kind of failing. That's nice. His NORAD does activate, and he's going to break our South Korean control. Okay, so that was that. That was his little 2 moves in a row thing, and it actually came out a heck of a lot better than it could have. And so I think now we need to reoccupy Angola. We will certainly take the blessings that God gave us. We could do that with a little tiny card like blockade, but then he would be able to pile into South Korea. I don't know if I want him to be able to do that. I almost want to kind of do some protection. I think this is probably the moment when we go ahead. He knows we have it anyway. We're going to go ahead and play the Marshall Plan. We're going to fill that up, and we're going to move on into Angola like we said. And I think what I'm going to do is actually overprotect South Korea so we don't get an unending series of NORADings there, because that's clearly his main place. He can irritate us. And so, let's see, something to do with the last point. Let's just go ahead and overprotect Angola so he can't do the play a 3 card and break our control and take control himself all in 1 card thing. All right, so he's going to get the Marshall Plan, and he's going to spray his crud all over Europe, making it look horrible and blue and free and stuff. And then he's going to play the Warsaw Pact, but as a space race. So he is clearly playing the space race game here. A very sanct strategy kind of play here. Very, very strong play. Now, the old-fashioned, the positional theory would have the American player go ahead and execute Warsaw Pact so that it doesn't come back to haunt them in the late war if they want to get hold of Europe. But the sanct strategy thinking is more, well, you need a space shot, so go ahead and space it and let the war take care of itself. So off he goes to space. He does fail, and Warsaw Pact will not be back until at least turn 7. All right, so we've got a good position in Asia, a quite good position in Africa. Europe is horrible, but we are getting rid of the scoring card. Middle East is horrible, but it's done. And then the main problem is that he did score the Middle East and got all these points. And of course, we haven't gotten any points for much of anything yet. So, what to do next? I don't see any immediate ways to gain operations or otherwise do harmful things to him. There's no really strong places to spread out. We could go into Saudi Arabia, but again, the Middle East is done for a long time, so it's not super urgent. One thing we know we want to do this turn, remembering our plan, we want to get ops for the Korean War, and we want to get Fidel played for the event, although maybe a little later rather than sooner. So I'm going to go ahead and check off some things from the plan. We're going to play Korean War. We're going to play it for the event and see how it does, see if we win the Korean War. Oh, we did win the Korean War. Look at that. 8 giant communist points in South Korea. Well, so he'll never be back there. We got a slightly lucky, 1/3 chance to get 2 victory points. So it's nice we've been at least pairing off some of his horrendous victory points as we go. All right, so here comes Independent Reds for influence, and he is, trying to make sure he doesn't get nothing in Africa, and you don't want to get nothing in Africa, and he doesn't want to get it, and he's not getting it. Obviously, at some points, he's willing to go into Botswana now that we've gotten our op, so that we're not immediately tempted to coup him in Botswana, which, by the way, we might have been. That sounds like that would have been a very productive place to coup, and I might have been tempted, as much as it came out with me getting the extra 2 victory points. That was, on the underside of the probability, and I might well have gotten interested in surrounding South Africa with lots of communism. But he has carefully waited until that's done, and he's gone into there, and so we're not nearly all that tempted. Plus, we have many other important things to do this turn. Yeah, let's go ahead and play Blockade for ops. I know he's got some bad cards like, at least he's got de Gaulle and Destalinization, which he would be more than happy to just get rid of, right? So I'm not going to give him a free ride on just discarding one of those. So let's just prop up Europe a little bit. Can't think of anything else that needs more propping up than Europe. So we're going to I'm just going to plop that in there. That may not be a very imaginative move. If you think of a better place you would have stuck 1 influence, then, let me know in comments. Here comes his Formosan Resolution. He's playing that for influence, and he is going ahead and just filling up some more countries, trying to secure his Central American and South African types of situations. It's time for me to play Fidel for the event, go ahead and get into Cuba, so I get a presence over there. On turn 1 and 2, I'll often play Fidel for ops, just to, hoping he'll come back in the mid-war if I need the ops, but by turn 3, I definitely want to be over there in Central America. So let's see. Here comes his de Gaulle for a second space race shot. So I guess he's holding Destalinization. Interesting, but he can do that if he wants to. So there goes de Gaulle into space, and we must play a scorecard or lose the game. And we are going to actually not play the scorecard, and we're not going to lose the game. So there to that message. We're going to play the 5-year plan. And we are going to do what? All right, I think what I'm going to do is I am going to fortify for the mid-war here. I'm going to go ahead and double up in Zaire and Nigeria. And so that leaves me with 1 more point, and I guess we're gonna put it into... So let's do that. Again, if you think of a better plan, let me know in comments. And we are now going to execute our event, even though it says DEFCON warning, and it is going to delete from our hand European scoring. So his final play will be defectors, and of course not Destalinization. He is really building a bastion in Panama, overprotecting it, and he's going to make his little, rather than make a run, more risky run into Colombia, he is going to put a guy into Nicaragua, and he is going to threaten us with realignment out of Cuba as his little action round 6 play. So we go to turn 4. Wah. DEFCON goes to 3. And everybody had ops. And let us look at our turn 4 hand. All right, interesting stuff. So we've got decolonization again. That's exciting, or funny, I guess. Maybe not super exciting in the sense that we're already we're in a great shape in Africa, and that should help us keep Africa in great shape. Now, much more exciting is junta, which will let us hopefully get some guys into South America with the addition of a coup. We've got the lone gunman, and we got Cambridge 5. We could look at his cards. We've got a bad card in OAS. We've got Kitchen Debates, which fortunately right now won't give him 2 points, so we can hopefully get rid of that in time. We've got Socialist Governments, too late to really have any hope in Europe. We could, in theory, headline it just to cancel NORAD for a turn and then take a coup that he can't NORAD, but that, you can see why that doesn't seem super exciting to me. And then there's Arms Race. Now, one thing I am worried about is that there are a lot of mid-war cards he could play to steal the coup from us. You know, he could be playing grain sales, something like that. And, you know, he might have a way to make us not get a headline, you know, get an action round 1 coup. And so we might not get ops, he might get ops, so we might not get to do Arms Race for the event. But if we manage to get out there, get ourselves some ops early on, and play it for the event, I will certainly play that for the event. U2 incident, I'm not likely to play a 3 ops for 1 point at this stage. I'm likely to need to be spreading out and cooing, so I'm thinking that's probably the situation. So what we need to do now is decide on a headline. And so there's junta. We could headline junta, get over there and do that, which is a pretty good solid thing. But I think I'm actually going to headline Lone Gunman. So I'm going to get a peek at what he's going to be doing to us. And then I'll have the option of, I could use my coup with that, or my battleground coup with that. Or if I see something else is coming, I could use it to get rid of the Nicaragua threat and then save junta for my action round 1. I like that. I like the idea of knowing what his cards are for this turn. So I think that's actually what I'm interested in doing, is getting some ops and headline and getting to see his card. Okay, so he has headlined "Ask Not What Your Country Can Do For You," and that means he must have some terrible cards he wants to get rid of. So let's see what he's going to do. He is going to get rid of Destalinization, Comic-Con, We Will Bury You, and even Sadat Expels Soviets for later. And the Cultural Revolution, and Willy Brandt. Wow, what a hand he had. And Portuguese Empire Crumbles. Wow, I guess, it's almost like he didn't even have any other blue cards to headline, so he said, what the heck? And so I was hoping he might draw some terrible cards back, but he's actually drawn some good cards, and some cards he's probably glad that he controls and not us. So let's see. Look at that. So see, he's got the ABM treaty, and he's got the infamous colonial rear guards. So at least we are fortified against some of that. But see, he controls the Africa scoring card, and we now know it's good that we know that it's going to score this turn. So at least we're not going to fall into some kind of horrible trap. But I certainly fear for our little African children over there. when the ABM treaty hits hard. So we can imagine that he might use the ABM treaty to absolutely clobber Zaire and then be realigning Angola at +2 the rest of the turn. So Liberation Theology is going to want to send to space. OPEC right now only even gives us 1 point. Now, mind you, we might get into junta in time. We might get into Venezuela in time, so maybe he wants that. Well, of course, he gets 2 space shots right now. The only good news at all, so he can take the China card from us or make it really bad. If we give him the China card, the only good news here is that he probably doesn't have time to both play nuclear subs and take a whole bunch of coups in Africa with it. So I don't really expect that. But let's see what we shall do. I guess, yeah. So he's going to try to clobber Zaire to surround Angola. So I'm actually going to pre-surround it by going here with the 1 point, which also, by the way, means he can't just offload Africa without having us dominate. So it establishes domination of Africa now. And then I'm going to go ahead and play junta for the event. I'm going to fill up Venezuela, which makes his OPEC more dangerous. So see, we're trying to make his cards at least a little bit more painful, contain the damage, him getting rid of all the bad cards and getting some good cards, and go ahead and take a coup in Nicaragua. Oh. All right, so why did I do that? That was probably a really stupid clicking too fast mistake. Well, okay, so this is going to be a game where I make some mistakes because I was so convinced he was going to take the coup away from me and I wasn't going to be able to coup Panama that I didn't coup Panama. And so now he's going to get 2 horrible coups against me. See, now he can, oh, what a dum-dum. Oh, well, at least he rolled a 1. Wow, it's like the angels of the dice are trying to save us from ourselves. So I have been a blockhead, and I've kind of been saved from the consequences of my mistakes so far. How about that? So I guess I need to fill that back up to 2, and I'm going to expand out of Venezuela before he could use the ABM treaty to totally crush me in Venezuela. All right, here comes a bunch of colonial rear guards. And a subtle thing you want to notice about this. So he's filling those up, and you think, well, is that really important? Well, it's a little bit important because you know he's going to get an ABM treaty thing, and when he gets the ABM treaty, he's going to get a NORAD, and so that's irritating. So he's kind of seeding himself some future, not just for this turn, but other turns. He doesn't have a lot of places where he has influence in countries we control, so that's pretty good, seeding his future NORAD stuff. Guess I'm going to cancel it out with decolonization. It's like I'm just going to do the exact same thing he did, except take control of all those countries, which I suspect at this point is the best use for a decolonization. All right, here comes the big ABM treaty. Wah, wah. We knew it was coming. We kind of know where it's going. Yes, Zaire, and he has now surrounded us in Angola. Now, unfortunately, see, he has cleverly, very astutely used his NORAD, not to create a down-the-road threat, but to actually immediately diffuse our immediate threat. Our immediate threat was to start realigning the heck out of Zaire at +1 and kind of stay ahead of him. And, he could go back in, we could realign again, and we could have a whole turn of basically doing that. But now he has removed our realignment advantage while retaining his realignment advantage, and that is not so good for us. I guess I'm going to go ahead and take a coup against Botswana and try to get, if I can get a good enough coup roll, then I can actually have an adjacent country and defuse that whole threat, and then everything would be fine and we would pretty much end up dominating Africa. If it works a little bit, then we'll at least be adjacent so that even after he realigns us out, we might be able to come back in, like with an arms race card. So that seems like a reasonably a 1 in 3 chance here of doing really well, a further 1 in 6 chance of at least getting adjacent, and then the others are kind of more, less good. And we've rolled a 1, so we have totally failed. All right, fair enough. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose in coups, and so I expect there's going to be a big fat realignment. Well, that was interesting. So the first roll went really well for us. Second roll, no change. Excellent. Oh, but third roll wiped us out. I was thinking, hey, we were getting some pretty good rolls there. We actually knocked his little guy out, which is actually really fortunate because now we can actually do a funny little thing. Because, see, I think he's running out of cards and time to establish a domination. So, are we going to dominate? Probably not. So what does he have here? Okay, so I think what we're going to have to do here, and I like the elegance of this maneuver, even if I don't like the necessity of doing it, is, see, I don't think he's got enough time to actually reestablish domination of Africa, or at least he may not have enough time, and so we should try to run out the clock here. So I'm going to play the Cambridge 5 as the event, and what it's going to do is, we know he's got the Africa card, so we know we're going to get to put a point back into Angola, which is going to keep him from crudding into it. See, so now to establish domination, he would have to actually realign us again, be successful, move in there to get control, and then play the scorecard. And I'm not sure that his cards are good enough to do it. And indeed, that's right. He's got all that space shot crap he wants. He doesn't want to run straight into playing things like liberation theology, activating our event. So he is stuck doing space shots. So he's going to go ahead and get Africa out of his system. And he's feeling good that at least he canceled our domination, which, remember, Africa was supposed to be one of the places that it was good. So, on the whole, this turn has to go down pretty well to our opponent's benefit. But at least we kept him from dominating Africa. And so that is something. It's something. We got something. But yeah, turn 4, middle of turn 4, game not going so well. No. All right. So what to do next? Well, I think we will go ahead and get rid of the kitchen debates card before he gets more battlegrounds than we do, which, is surely becoming a risk here. And we're just going to fill up the rest of Brazil, getting ready for hopefully a good scoring round in, how about South America? All right, here comes a totally unsurprising space shot. It fails for him. All right, so it's action round 7. It's our final play. We could play Arms Race for Ops. We don't want to play OAS while South America is still in the balance, but maybe I actually want to hold on to... Do I want to hold on to Arms Race for points? Maybe I do, because I can then make a move. Let's make a move down here to try, because we really need some points. And so we're going into Uruguay, going real hard with the China card, which first of all establishes domination. So he wouldn't be able to just score it off quick without domination for us. We're putting 4 in, so it's really hard for him to coup back. We certainly don't expect it this turn. And we're saving Arms Race to try to get even more points back. If we could ever have a turn, hopefully in mid-war, where we get our quote-unquote normal coup, then we'll be able to do that. So it's a bit of a gamble, but we are going to go ahead and do it. All right, and so he's poking a guy into Thailand, and that means he wants to be able to NORAD us with it. But that brings the turn to an end, and we go to turn 5. So here are our cards, and we don't know very much about his cards anymore. So we might know like one little thing he has. But we have got these cards. We need to come up with a plan and a headline. So let me know in comments what you would do, what you would play, and how, once again, we would try to turn the ship around. And we'll see you next time on Twilight Struggle. Play the Experts.
Amen.